The LLM chat node lets you use AI in your flows by connecting to OpenAI, Gemini, and Ollama. Now, you can create AI-powered chatbots, create smart automations, and create a level of personalization regular code could never really achieve. So let's get started. We're going to start up with just setting up the LLM chat node. That's this one right here. Now, to do so, you're not going to have this at first, but you're going to see this add platform configuration. Select it and select this pencil icon. Now you can set up a name for yourself. I suggest naming it using the schema of platform model. So for instance, you would, if you're going to use ChatGPT, you would say OpenAI and then the model that you want to use. So in this case, I'm going to use ChatGPT and select the model, and then you would add in the API token. Now, you would do the same thing if you were going to set up for Gemini as well. However, if you're going to use Ollama, then you're going to need to pass in the URL to where Ollama is situated. So if you have it on a server somewhere, whatever that URL is to access that API, you would add that here. You just click add, and then you should have a new configuration here. So when using the chat node, it requires a payload that looks something like the following. You need to pass it an object, just like this, and it needs to have a system and user parameter, both of which must be strings. You can see here I'm using the template node and I have the syntax highlighting as JSON, and then it's outputted as JSON. So this output is important. It needs to be outputted as JSON, but for the syntax highlighting, you can change this to whichever one suits your needs the best. I tend to toggle between JSON or mustache, depending on what I'm doing. Depending on your particular use case, you might want to tweak some model parameters, such as, for instance, the token length or the temperature. Update these parameters, you're going to have to add in the options property and pass in the parameters you want to update. So options, and then this will be an object, and then it would be whatever the parameters that you want to change. So for example, if you're using OpenAI and you want to use the JSON format or the JSON mode, you would set the payload to look like this. So let's go here. We have JSON mode. They expect a response format to look like that. So we'll just copy this part and we'll come back in the response format. We've added this property to the options, so when you run the code, it will use this as part of the parameters. Now, these parameters here under the options can change depending on the platform that you use, so consult the documentation of your chosen platform. Conversation ID lets you keep a history of the conversation. If you have more than one LLM chat node and they both share the same conversation ID, then they both will have the same chat history as context for any of the interaction that they have. This allows you to create a consistent, cohesive experience regardless of what flows are being executed. However, keep in mind that the longer the conversation history goes, the more tokens your application will use. If you want to clear the history for the chat, then you simply just need to pass in the clear chat history as part of as a property to the message object, not the template payload here. So for instance, you would have here clear chat history, and then you would set it to true. Now when this runs, it will clear the chat history for this chat node and it will start again from 0. Tool choice is part of the function calling feature. Function calling is a powerful feature that lets you use AI to call specific functions with dynamic parameters within your flows. For example, in the context of a smart home automation, the LLM can call a toggle light function and pass the name of that light to toggle it. Now the tool choice has 3 options. You have none. This will disable the feature entirely and the platform will never call a function. You have automatic, and this one will let the LLM decide whether or not to call a specific function. Now, this will be based entirely on the context of the conversation and the definition of the functions that you have. Using this choice, the LLM may call 0, 1, or more functions. Choosing required will force the LLM to always call a function. Regardless of the context, the platform will call at least one function. Now, the functions are chosen using this tools property. This is a list of all the functions that have been defined throughout the entirety of this application. If you select required or automatic, then you must choose one of the options here, otherwise it will fail. Now, to learn more about how to populate the functions within this list, or consult the documentation for the register node. Keep in mind that function calling isn't available for all platforms or models, so consult the appropriate platform documentation.